Opa, vimos já volta para
And in
cá.
those studies, a lot here, the three controversial articles here,
Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel channel for foodies. I'm Brent Peterson. This is the Arco de Agosto in Lisbon, Portugal. And today I thought we'd do a little something different than our usual videos where we talk about food and travel. Although, you know, we're in Lisbon, so it's travel. But, you know, I've been living in Portugal now for almost 2 years, and I get a lot of friends and family and new acquaintances asking me what it's like to live in Portugal. And that's a pretty big question, a question that's way too big to answer in one video. So I thought I'd break it down a little bit and, you know, talk about a couple of topics related to living in Portugal and tell you about those. And if this is the kind of thing that you like, well, like the video, maybe leave a comment below of other topics related to living in Portugal that you'd like to know about, and maybe we can do more videos regarding that type of stuff. So that's what we're planning on doing. We'll hit a couple of places right here in Lisbon and talk about some of that stuff. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the Arco de Agosto. This place is right on the Praça do Comércio, and this is one of the most photographed and videoed places in Portugal, but from ground level. A lot of people don't know that you can climb up here. You'll see tons of people on the Praça do Comércio taking pictures of this arch, which leads into the city. But most people don't know that if you just come around the corner, pay, right now it's €3.50 euro, and you can take an elevator and then climb less than 100 steps up to the top here and get these incredible views of the April 25th bridge and across the river. And you can see how big these statues are, really get an idea as to the massive size of these statues that look so small when you're at ground level. So it's definitely worth coming up here and seeing Praça do Comércio from this bird's eye view, because Praça do Comércio is really a very important spot in Lisbon. This is where the Royal Palace used to be back in the day. But in 1755, the Lisbon earthquake leveled the city, leveled the palace, and now it's this open area, one of the largest squares in all of Europe. So it's fascinating to see. It's one of the central locations to come see. But if you can get up here on top of the Arc, it's definitely worth your time. This is Arco de Demartino Cafe, and if you saw my video on Lisbon coffee crawl, I went to 8 different cafes in one day and sampled a ton of coffee. This was one of the places I came in. This is one of my favorite spots in Lisbon, because you're just steps away from the tourist crush of Praça do Comércio, but still this is a traditional cafe, locals hanging out here, especially on the inside. So it's really a great spot to come. And if you can see behind me, there's the tile mural of Pessoa. And if you saw my video on the Campo do Ourique, I did a little piece on Pessoa, very interesting guy from Lisbon. He used to hang out here and get his coffee. But anyway, we're here to talk about life in Portugal. And once people find out that I've been living in Portugal, one of the first things they ask is, how did you do it? How do you move to Portugal? And that question has a lot of answers, you know, and different people will answer in different ways. For me, I did it one way, but there's several other ways. There's been a lot of media coverage about this thing called the nomad visa. And if you work remotely, if you're a person who can work from home or work remotely, this might be a way to do it. You can get a 1-year visa to live in Portugal, provided you can prove that you make enough money and you have a clean criminal record. It can also, in some cases, lead to citizenship, if that's what you're looking for. That's not what we did. There's also been a lot of talk about the golden visa, and if you follow this in the media, you might think the golden visa has been canceled in Portugal. That's not true. It's been modified greatly as a matter of fact, but it hasn't been canceled. You can no longer, well, so what is the golden visa? You invest $500,000 in property here in Portugal and you can get residency and it can lead to citizenship. So the way that's changed is that now you can't use the golden visa here in Lisbon, in Porto, or in the Algarve, the most popular places to live, because they're trying to get people to buy property in some of the more rural, out-of-the-way places. And there are beautiful places in Portugal where you can do that. So the golden visa is another option. We didn't do that either. There is another way called the family reunification. If you have a husband or a wife or a spouse or whatever who's Portuguese living in Portugal, you as the spouse can apply for citizenship based on family reunification. Your kids can as well. We didn't apply for that. What we got was something called the D7 visa. D7 visa is popular amongst retirees and folks who have sufficient funds to show that they can be independent and not rely on the state here in Portugal. So that's what I did. And I applied for that visa. It took, once I got all the paperwork together, and there's quite a bit of paperwork that you have to show, you know, things you would expect like birth certificates and stuff like that, but you also have to get a criminal background check through the FBI, and you also have to show in your bank account that you have a passive income to, I think it's at least the average wage in Portugal or the minimum wage in Portugal. I can't remember which, it's been a couple of years. But the passive income requirement was low enough that I think it's like $800 a month, something like that. So if you have something like Social Security, or you have a pension, or you just have some other passive income, you can use that and show your status. And then after that, we came to Portugal. I had a meeting at the immigration office, and a couple of weeks later, I got my residency card. That's good for 2 years. So I'm about to renew that. When I renew it, I'll renew it for 3 years. My recommendation is, if you're planning on doing that, if you're thinking of doing something like that, what you want to consider doing is hiring an immigration lawyer, especially one here in Portugal who's familiar with Portuguese immigration law. That's what I did. I thought the price was very reasonable for what I got. My lawyer not only took care of a lot of the bureaucracy, but she also talked me off the ledge when I got nervous about how long the process was taking and if I was going to be able to get through. So to me, it was money well spent. A lot of folks I know don't do that. They do it themselves and they're just fine. So that's up to you. So those are the basic ways that you can do it. And, you know, depending on who you are, what your circumstance is, you might have a different way of doing it than I did it. But anyway, that's what it is as far as getting here, getting your foot on Portuguese soil. So we're here at Martinho, so I had to get a coffee. Got into Batanado, and that's nice. And then I got a flan. We need a little snack. So we got a nice little Portuguese flan. So that's Martinho. Make this a part of your trip to Lisbon. For God's sakes, don't go to Starbucks. There are Starbucks here, and man, when I see those lines coming out of Starbucks, it just breaks my heart. People come to the legit cafes here in Portugal, and you'll be rewarded because it's a great spot, and you know, you never know who you'll run into. Maybe a famous poet like Pessoa. This is Fabrica Coffee Roasters in Lisbon. It's literally a 2-minute walk from where we were at Martinho, but light years away. This is definitely English first language, tourists, third wave coffee place. Doesn't mean it's bad. In fact, they make a really nice cup of coffee if you want a fancy coffee, really home, they roast their own beans here, the whole thing. Really nice coffee here. But the locals aren't hanging out here. So, but really good stuff. Now, first of all, I should tell you, there's going to be construction noise in the background. We're in the middle of Lisbon. Lots of construction going on here. This is very expensive real estate here. You're going to hear traffic noise and whatnot. So anyway, that's just the way it is. Now, what I wanted to talk about was another thing that people often ask me. Hi, buddy. Another thing that people often ask me is, how do you make friends? What's your social network like? What's your social life like when you're here and living here in Portugal? And here's the thing. The 5 years or so prior to us moving to Portugal, Karen and I lived in 4 different cities all over the US. And frankly, I didn't make a lot of friends when we moved to new places. That was just the way I could probably count on one hand the number of friends, real friends, that I made in those places. Now, Karen, she did better than I did because she was working, so she made work friends. But I was not working, so I did not make work friends. So didn't make a lot of friends there. Came to Portugal, literally the 3rd day that we were here, we went to a get-together in the main square of our city, and we met dozens of people, many of whom are still very close friends of ours, even today. Friends who we hang out with all the time. Now, as a migrant to Portugal from the United States, yes, a lot of them are North Americans, Canadians, and American. But we have made friends from all over the world. We have obviously lots of Portuguese friends, lots of Brazilian friends. Brazilians are just wonderful people. Portuguese are wonderful people. Brazilians are wonderful people too. And then friends from all over the EU, whether it's Germany or France or Ireland, and then people from the UK, from Iceland, we know people, from other parts of South America. We have a great friend from Russia, friends from Hong Kong. So all over the world, they're all represented in our little city of Setúbal in Portugal. So America's known as the melting pot, but really there's a lot of people here that we've made friends with. So it's fantastic. Our social circle is very wide. The question is it hard to make friends? No, it's very easy. As you would imagine, amongst what's called the expat community, I don't like to use the word expat. Sometimes I fall into it though. I prefer to say migrant because expat kind of connotes a level of privilege that I'm not that comfortable with. So I say migrant because that's what we are. We're migrants. We immigrated to Portugal. So anyway, amongst the migrant community, it's very easy to make friends because they're in the same boat that we are. They're new to the city. They're new to the country. They're looking to make friends. We're looking to make friends. It's iced coffee with oat milk. Really nice. They did the actual cold brew. So that's a nice coffee. But anyway, so those folks are looking to make friends, so that becomes very easy. What you might not suspect is making friends amongst the Portuguese, the people who have lived here their whole lives, who grew up here. And we have found it incredibly easy to make friends with those folks. They've been incredibly welcoming to us, very friendly, and we consider them some of our closest and dearest friends. And the thing that I noticed about the Portuguese people who are from Portugal who live here, and I give that differentiation because there's lots of Portuguese people who were born in Portugal, then moved abroad for a good part of their adult life, and then moved back here. But when I say Portuguese, I mean Portuguese people who have lived here, born here, lived here all their lives. Incredibly friendly and incredibly helpful. I can't tell you the number of times that we've been asking a question or looking for assistance or been having trouble with something, whether it's some bureaucracy, whether it's finding something or just asking a question, and people just go so far out of their way to help you. I'll give you an example. I needed to do a telemedical appointment with the doctor, and the doctor did not speak English. And I asked a friend of ours if she would help us. We go over to her house with the computer. She was so kind and helpful with the translation, and just really just wonderful about the whole situation. It was really heartwarming. I'll give you another example. When we moved into our apartment, obviously, this might not be something that you think about, but you've got to get all the utilities turned on, right? Well, we're just arriving here, don't speak the language. Some of it was fairly easy to navigate, some of it was much more difficult. Our realtor, not even our realtor, our landlord's realtor helped us, made the phone call to the utility for us, made the appointment, told us all the paperwork we needed, and helped us fill out the form. She had no reason to do that. She didn't have to help us, but she did, and she did so in such a kind way, in such a generous way, and we still count her as amongst one of our good friends, her and her husband. So that's what it's like trying to make friends. I gotta say, I have found it much easier to make. I don't want to make this a comparison about, oh, United States bad, Portugal good, because that's not what this is about. But I will say, for me personally, I found it much easier to make friends here in Portugal, new friends, than in the United States. Of course, my dearest and closest friends, who I've had for 40 years or more, are still back in the United States. So there you go. That's my experience. Yours may differ. And like I said, if you've enjoyed this, leave a comment below on some other stuff that you want me to talk about living in Portugal. For now, I'm going to enjoy my expensive little piece of cheesecake here. This isn't the kind of place where you come and you get a, €1 espresso. But that cheesecake is really frickin' good. Even though this little thing cost me $7.50 and I could probably get a full meal in our town for $7.50. It's really, really good. If you like travel and food, check out my podcast. I drop a new episode every Friday. I do episodes from all over the world. Every place that you can imagine on the planet, I've probably done an episode on. I also have foodie guides to cities around the world at the website. Go to destinationeatdrink.com for that, destinationeatdrink.com/pod for the podcast. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you would. And we'll try to ignore this construction as we have some coffee and some more cheesecake. Thanks for watching.
Já volta para
And the roadster started a lot of irritated. That's a bit controversial. People say,